People should go see the Butler monologues to support new works, to support diverse works, and just to have a fantastic night out. I can guarantee you, you will not be bored at this show. It is a delightful time. The actors are all so charming and amazing. I mean, we've got 9 guys on stage, which is tough to do in Orange County at all, let alone actors of a certain age being able to play all of these roles. And so it's just a joy and such a diverse group also. So, support new theater, support live theater, but also just support these individuals who are working their butts off learning 8 different endings just to entertain people depending on what they want to see that night. As somebody who is a theater nerd and then also just a nerd in general, a geek of pop culture and things like that, I have a love of just pop culture in general and how it informs us and in our humor and our comedy and our humanity. And so working on this has been a lot of fun because I got to decide which butlers went in the show, but how to honor those nerdy aspects and at the same time call out how ridiculous some of those things are too, and have us all revel in it in a shared joke. Again, we don't punch down at anybody, so everybody's in on the joke and having a lot of fun with it. So I enjoy that aspect of it immensely. And then for other characters, I didn't know a lot about them. Like I didn't know a lot about Mr. Belvedere before I started writing him, but people are like, you gotta have Mr. Belvedere in it. He's the only butler with his own show. And so I was like, okay, yeah, absolutely. And so now I know way too much about Mr. Belvedere. If you are a fan of any one of these butlers, seeing the show is going to be amazing because there are deep cuts in the show that are, people ask me like, why is that in there? Like, that's such an odd choice. Like it's mentioned that Lurch has 2 left feet. So our actor Mason Banks has to wear 2 left-footed shoes. And somebody's like, why is that in the script? Like, why is that there? I'm like, canonically, Lurch has 2 left feet when he was put together. And so there's all those weird deep cuts in the show that maybe if you're not a fan of that character like Die Hard, you might not know that it's just a silly thing that is funny for the sake of being in the show and being funny. But there's a rhyme and a reason to it. So if you're a big fan of any of these characters or just poking fun at pop culture in general, it's even more exciting. Hi, this is Jeff Lowe from Alchemy Theater Company. We're talking about the Butler Monologues. So if you want to learn more, stick around. So the Butler Monologues takes place in a fictional place called Igor Acres. It's kind of a retirement home for butlers. And the butlers that are in this place, there's Fritz Igor, who is the attendant for all the butlers at Igor Acres. And then the rest are the TV and movie butlers that you love. So it's Alfred from Batman, Hobson from Arthur, Jeffrey from Fresh Prince, Riff Raff from Rocky Horror, Wadsworth from Clue, Cato from The Green Hornet, Mr. Belvedere from Mr. Belvedere, and Lurch. And then on top of all of those butlers in Act 2, Alice from the Brady Bunch shows up from the FBI to investigate a murder because at the end of Act 1, one of the butlers is murdered, which of course leaves only one possible solution. The butler did it. So the audience then gets to go out at intermission and they vote who they want the murderer to be. So Act 2 changes every single night a little bit depending on who the murderer is, not just the ending, but also little tiny moments in dialogue. Somebody says something, if it's this ending and so on and so forth. So there's a real challenge as an actor as well. But it's a lot of fun for the audience too, and they can see it multiple times and maybe get a different murderer. While the second act of the show does change slightly in different ways, none of it is improvised. All of it is scripted, and so in the script, I will write. There are multiple different endings, and so let's say that we're doing ending 3C tonight or whatever it is. And so all the actors will flip through Act 2 and all the moments that are affected by the 3C ending, including who did it, what murder weapon was used, all that kind of stuff. And it's all underlined in highlight. So if there's anything that can be changed by the possibility of the ending, then the lines are very specifically changed, because it was always important to me that the crime could be solved by the audience, and it didn't have to be too much of ex machina for Alice just to solve it at the end. Yeah, they can see 8 different murder mysteries, and they'll get a lot of the same jokes and a lot of the same the enjoyment of the show that is there. I don't think there's anything about the different endings that would cause you to say, I haven't seen the full show. You'll still see the full show each time, but the endings are pretty spectacular, because the killer gets caught and gets to do their big, manifesto of like, yeah, I did it and I'd do it again, and I'll tell you exactly why. And those are really, really fun each and every time. So I would suggest people see it at least twice if they can, just to try and see a couple more endings. And see how the characters react too, because all of the Butlers and Alice know who the killer is when the lights go up for Act 2. So there's an uneasiness, or the character who is the killer will probably be a little bit less helpful to the investigation each time. The themes in the Butler monologues really come down to satire and nostalgia, and these ideas of wanting something more, even though you are always considered maybe the secondary character. That all of these characters that are constantly in the background, except maybe in the case of Mr. Belvedere, they have full fleshed out lives. They have hopes, they have aspirations and things like that. And we just thought it was interesting to explore the idea, well, what happens to these people when their charges no longer need them, or they're, in the case of like Batman or something like that, there's no more Batman. Well, what does Alfred do then? Hobson has the same problem when Arthur grows up. And so all these characters, I feel like, have additional stories that can be told. And we've decided to put them under a lens of comedy and farce, that's kind of mixed up a little bit with a murder mystery. So it's very tongue-in-cheek, but I think the theme should be, it's irreverent. It's paying homage to something. We never punch down, and wanting to create a show that is fun for the whole family, and not just that you have to have intimate knowledge of who these Butlers are. That's why they all get a monologue. They kind of explain to you. So you might be familiar with Jeffrey from Fresh Prince, but you might not have any idea who Cato is from the Green Hornet. So it's fun to also poke fun at the zeitgeist of television and film, that there are so many very specifically Butlers, and they all do wildly different things, but the uniform usually stays the same. They really do comment about the people that they've served in the past in a fun way, usually depending on the Butler, in kind of a derisive way, because a lot of them, like I had mentioned, what happens when you're no longer a Butler. Some of them are in this place not necessarily happily, who wants to go to a retirement home, especially for Butlers. And so, they poke fun at their former charges, sometimes in very cute and cheeky ways, and sometimes just in direct, ways, like with Wadsworth from Clue. He just killed Mr. Body straight up. So there are certain ways that they all deal with their former charges, but they're all mentioned throughout the show, specifically in their monologues, and then here and there smattering of elsewhere. But once we get the monologues done, we're pretty much off to the races of the mystery and why they're all here and all of their shady dealings. I would like the audience to get out of the Butler monologues that there's a celebration of new work, and that's not to toot my own horn. I want to celebrate all new works of any kind. So I hope there'll be more support of new works in general, and also just, doing what the Maverick is doing. I guess Alchemy on some level is taking a chance on doing full productions of new works. A lot of times they get relegated to these new play festivals, which are so important, but unfortunately are not always well attended. So I hope that people get that out of it. I also hope that, there are some elements of the show where anybody can be cast in any role except for Jeffrey and Cato. Jeffrey must be black, and Cato must be of Asian descent. And so I would like to see more of that in new plays as well, that there's a lot of open space for everybody, but that there's some specificity as well that can force the hand of supporting diversity. And again, that's not to toot my own horn. That's a hope for a lot of the theater community. So I'm eternally grateful to our cast and everybody involved, because they're allowing me to produce the play the way that it should be. And then finally, I think just having a fun night out at the theater, seeing something new, being exposed to something new is always a lot of fun, especially if there's a little bit of that comfort in knowing, okay, I'm going to be able to go to the theater and not have my heart ripped out tonight with a drama, which I love drama and theater. The tragedies and all that kind of stuff. I live for it. But sometimes you just need a night out. That's a lot of fun. And this one certainly is. So I hope that people will treat it like a fun evening out. Recently a lot of folks got into the whole vibe of like going to see Barbie, like all dressed in pink and everything. And I just think that's fantastic to like get involved in the media that you are enjoying. I think it's so important. It doesn't hurt anybody, and it adds another layer of excitement, both for the audience and for the performers. People should go see the Butler Monologues to support new works, to support diverse works, and just to have a fantastic night out. I can guarantee you will not be bored at this show. It is a delightful time. The actors are all so charming, amazing. I mean, we've got 9 guys on stage, which is tough to do in Orange County at all, let alone, actors of a certain age being able to play all of these roles. And so it's just a joy, and such a diverse group also. So, support new theater, support live theater, but also just support these individuals who are working their butts off learning 8 different endings just to entertain people, depending on what they want to see that night. This is Jeff Lowe with Alchemy Theater Company. I hope that you come out to see the Butler Monologues. Please support your local theaters, support any theater. Make sure you're getting out there and make sure you're letting them know that you love them, online, in person, any way that you can. Theater is one of the most important resources that we have, and we want to keep it going for as long as entertainment and the human spirit exists. So please support Alchemy Theater, support local theater. I hope that you come out to see the Butler Monologues. We'll see you in the theater.